Section 27. SHALACH. And the Lord spake with Moshe, saying, Send thou keen-sighted men who may explore the land of Canaan, which I will give to the children of Israel, 1 man for each tribe of the fathers. Thou shalt send from the presence of all the leaders. And Moshe sent them from the wilderness of Paran, according to the mouth of the word of the Lord, all of them acute men, who had been appointed heads over the sons of Israel. And these are the names of the 12 men, the explorers. The messenger of the tribe of Reuben, Shammua bar Zaccur of the tribe of Shemeon, Shaphat bar Hori for Jehudah, Caleb bar Jephunneh for Issachar, Yehiel bar Joseph for Ephraim, Hoshea bar Nun for Benjamin, Palti bar Rapphuz for Zebulun, Gaddiel bar Zodi for Manasseh, Gadi bar Suzi for Dan, Amiel bar Gemali for Asher, Sether bar Michael for Naphtali, Nachbi bar Vaphsi, and for Gad-Gil bar Machi. These are the names of the men whom Moshe sent to explore the land. And when Moshe saw his humility, he called Hoshea bar Nun Jehoshua. And Moshe sent them to survey the land of Canaan, and said to them, Go up on this side by the south, and ascend the mountain, and survey the country, what it is, and the people who dwell in it, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, what the land is in which they dwell, whether good or bad, what cities they inhabit, whether they live in towns that are open or walled, and what the reputation of the land, whether its productions are rich or poor, and the trees of it fruitful or not. Hunter valiantly, and bring back some of the fruit of the land, Jerusalem, and what the land is, whether the fruits of it are rich, or trees. And the day on which they went was the 19th of the month of Sivan, about the days of the first grapes. They went up therefore, and explored the country, for the wilderness of Zin, and to the roads by which thou comest unto Antiochia. They went up from the side of the south, and came to Hebron, where were Achiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, sons of Anak the giant. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Tanis in Mizraim. They came then to the stream of the grapes, or bunches, Ethkala, and cut down from thence a branch with 1 cluster of grapes, and carried it on a staff on the shoulders of 2 of them, and also took there of the pomegranates and the figs, Jerusalem. And they came to the stream of the grape clusters, and cut down from thence a branch with 1 cluster of grapes, and carried it on a rod between 2 men, and also of the pomegranates and of the figs. Now the place they call the stream of the cluster, for the branch which the sons of Israel cut down there, and wine was dropping from it like a stain. And they returned from exploring the land on the 8th day of the month Ab, at the end of 40 days. And they came to Moshe and Aharon, and all the congregation of the children of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Rechem, and returned them word to them and the whole congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they recounted to him, and said, We went into the country to which thou didst send us, and it indeed produceth milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. But the people who inhabit the country are strong, and the fortified cities they inhabit very great. And we saw also there the sons of Anak the giant. The Amalekites dwell in the south, the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites in the mountains, but the Canaanites dwell by the sea, and by the bank of the Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people, and made them listen to Moshe, and said, Let us go up and possess it, for we are able to take it, Jerusalem. And he stilled. But the men who had gone up with him said, We are not able to go up to the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought out an evil report about the land which they had surveyed, to the sons of Israel, saying, The country through which we have passed to explore it is a land that killeth its inhabitants with diseases, and all the people who are in it are giants, masters of evil ways. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, of the race of the giants, and we appeared to ourselves to be as locusts, and so we appeared to them. 14. And all the congregation lifted up and gave forth the voice, and the people wept that night. And it was confirmed as a punishment that they should weep on that night 1 in their generations. And all the sons of Israel murmured against Moshe and Aharon, and said, Would that we had died in the land of Mizraim, or that we may die in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword of the Canaanites, and our wives and little ones to become a prey? Will it not be better to return into Mizraim? And one man said to his brother, Let us appoint a king over us for a chief, and return to Mizraim. Jerusalem. Let us set a king over us, and go round to Mizraim. And Moshe and Aaron bowed upon their faces before all the congregation of the sons of Israel, and Jehoshua bar Nun and Caleb bar Jephunneh of the explorers of the land rent their clothes, and spake to the congregation, saying, The land we went to see is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord hath pleasure in us, he will bring us into this land, and give it us, a land producing milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the commandments of the Lord. And you need not fear the people of the land, for they are delivered into our hands. The strength of the power hath failed from them, but the word of the Lord will be our helper. Fear them not. But all the congregation said they would stone them with stones. And the glorious Shekinah of the Lord was revealed in bright clouds at the tabernacle. And the Lord said to Moshe, How long will this people provoke me to anger? How long will they disbelieve in my word, for all the signs I have wrought among them? I will strike them with deadly plague and destroy them, and will appoint thee for a people greater and stronger than thee. But Moshe said, The children of the memrieh, whom thou didst drown in the sea, will hear that thou didst bring up this people from among them by thy power, and will say with exultation to the people of this land, who have heard that thou art the Lord, whose Shekinah dwelleth among this people, in whose eyes, O Lord, the glory of thy Shekinah appeared on the mountain of Sinai, and who there received thy law, thy cloud hath shadowed, that neither heat nor rain might hurt them, and whom in the pillar of the cloud thou hast led on by day, that the mountains and hills might be brought low, and the valleys lifted up, and hast guided in the pillar of fire by night. And after all of these miracles wilt thou kill this people as one man. Then the nations who have heard the fame of thy power will speak, saying, Because there was no more strength with the Lord to bring this people into the land which swearing he had promised to them, he hath killed them in the wilderness. And now, I beseech thee, magnify thy power, O Lord, and let mercies be fulfilled upon us, and appoint me for this great people, as thou hast spoken, saying, The Lord is long-suffering, and nigh in mercy, forgiving sins and covering transgressions, justifying such as return to his law. Though them who turn not he will not absolve, but will visit the sins of wicked fathers upon rebellious children unto the third and fourth generation. Jerusalem. The Lord is long-suffering, far from anger, near in mercy, multiplying the exercise of goodness and truth. Though the Lord will not justify sinners, but will remember, in the day of judgment, the guilt of wicked fathers upon rebellious children. Pardon now the sin of this people according to thy great goodness, even as thou hast forgiven them from the time that they came out from Mizraim until now. And the Lord said, I have forgiven according to thy word. Jerusalem. And the word of the Lord said, Behold, I have absolved and pardoned according to thy word. Nevertheless, by oath have I sworn that the whole earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord. Because all the men who have beheld my glory, and my signs, which I have wrought in Mizraim and in the desert, have tempted me now 10 times, and have not obeyed my word. By oath have I said this, that they shall not see the land which I covenanted to the fathers, and the generation which have been provokeful before me shall not behold it. Jerusalem. For I have uplifted my hand with an oath. But my servant Caleb, because there is in him another spirit, and he hath entirely followed in my fear, him will I bring into the land to which he went, and his children shall possess it. But the Amalekites and Canaanites dwell in the valley. Tomorrow turn you and go into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. And the Lord spake with Moshe and Aaron, saying, How long shall I bear with this evil congregation who gather together against me? The murmurs of the sons of Israel which they murmur against me are heard before me. Say to them, By oath I decree that according to what you have spoken, so will I do to you. In this wilderness your carcasses shall fall, the whole number of all who were counted from 20 years old and upward, who have murmured against me. By a fast oath have I sworn, that you shall not enter into the land which I covenanted in my word to give you to inhabit, except Caleb bar Jephunneh and Jehoshua bar Nun. But your children, who you said would be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which you rejected, but your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness. Yet your children will have to wander in this wilderness 40 years, and bear your sins until the time that your carcasses are consumed in the wilderness, according to the number of the days in which you were exploring the land. 40 days, a day for a year, a day for a year, you shall receive for your sins 40 years, and shall know the consequence of your murmuring against me. I the Lord have decreed in my word, if I have not made a decree in my word against all this evil congregation who have gathered a rebel against me in this wilderness, that they shall be consumed and die there. But the men whom Moshe had sent to explore the land, and who returning had made the whole congregation murmur against him, by bringing forth an evil report of the land, even those men who had brought forth the evil of the report of the land died on the 7th day of the month of Elul, with worms coming from the navels, and with worms devouring the tongues, and were buried in death from before the Lord. Only Jehoshua bar Nun and Caleb bar Jephunneh survived of those men who had gone to explore the land. And Moshe spake these words with all the sons of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. And they arose in the morning and went up to the top of the mountain, saying, Behold, we will go up to the place of which the Lord hath spoken, for we have sinned. But Moshe said, Why will you act against the decree of the word of the Lord? But it will not prosper with you. Go not up, for the Lord's Shekinah dwelleth not among you, and the ark, the tabernacle, and the cloud of glory proceed not, and be not crushed before your enemies. For the Amalekites and Canaanites are there prepared for you, and you will fall slaughtered by the sword. For, because you have turned away from the service of the Lord, the word of the Lord will not be your helper. But they armed themselves in the dark before the morning to go up to the height of the mountain. But the ark, in which was the covenant of the Lord, and Moshe, stirred not from the midst of the camp. And the Amalekites and Canaanites who dwelt in the mountain came down and slaughtered and destroyed them, and drave them hard to destruction. 15. And the Lord spake with Moshe, saying, Speak with the sons of Israel, and say to them, When you have entered into the land of your habitation which I will give you, and you may make an oblation upon the altar before the Lord, burnt offering, a consecrated sacrifice for release of a vow, or by free will offering, or at the time of your feasts you offer what is acceptable to the Lord of the world, to be received with approval before the Lord from the herd or from the flock. Let the man who offers his oblation before the Lord bring a mincha of 1/10 of flour mingled with the 1/4 of a hina of olive oil, and wine of grapes for a libation. The 1/4 of a hina, to be made upon the burnt offering a hallowed sacrifice for 1 lamb, or for a ram. Let him perform a mincha of 2/10 of flour mingled with 1/3 of a hin of olive oil, and wine of grapes. Let him offer in a vase for the libation, the 1/3 of a hin, to be received with acceptance before the Lord. But when he maketh the bullock a burnt offering, or a sacrifice for release from a vow, or a hallowed sacrifice before the Lord, let him bring for the bullock a mincha of 3/10 of flour mixed with 1/2 of a hin of olive oil, and wine of grapes 1/2 a hin, for a libation to be received with acceptance before the Lord. So let him do with each bullock, with each ram, and each lamb, whether it be from the lambs of the kids, according to the number of the bullocks or lambs or goats with which the oblation is made, so shall you do, each according to the number. All who are native born in Israel, and not of the sons of the Gentiles, shall so make these libations in offering an oblation to be received with acceptance before the Lord. And when a sojourner who sojourneth with you, or whoever is among you now, or in your generations, will bring an oblation to be received with favor before the Lord, as you do, so shall he. For the whole congregation there is one statute. For you and the sojourner who sojourneth, it is an everlasting statute for your generations, as with you, so shall it be with the sojourner before the Lord. One law and one judgment shall be for you and for the sojourner who sojourneth with you. And the Lord spake with Moshe, saying, Speak with the sons of Israel, and say to them, When you have entered the land into which I will bring you, and you eat the bread of the produce of it, not rice, nor millet, nor pulse, you shall set apart a separation before the Lord. Of the first of your dough 1 cake of 24 you shall set apart as a separation for the priests, as with the separation from the threshing floor, so shall you set it apart. Of the first of your dough you shall give a separation before the Lord in your generations. Jerusalem. Of the first of your dough you shall give a separation unto the name of the Lord. And should you have erred, and not performed some one of all these commandments which the Lord hath spoken with Moshe, whatsoever the Lord hath commanded you by Moshe from the day he commanded it, and henceforth unto your generations, if without the knowledge of the congregation sin hath been committed through ignorance, let all the congregation make one young bullock a burnt offering to be received with acceptance before the Lord, with his minkah and libation, as a proper, and 1 kid of the goats without mixture for a sin offering, and let the priests make atonement for all the congregation of the sons of Israel. And it shall be forgiven them, for it was an error, and they have brought their oblation, an offering before the Lord. Even an offering for the sin have they presented before the Lord for their error, and all the congregation of Israel shall be forgiven before the Lord. And the sojourners who sojourn among them, for an error hath occurred to the people. And if any one man sin through ignorance, let him bring 1 goat of the year without mixture for a sin offering. And let the priest make atonement for the man who hath erred in sinning through ignorance before the Lord, to atone for him, that it may be forgiven him, as well for the native born of the children of Israel, and for the strangers who sojourn among you. There shall be 1 law for him who transgresseth through ignorance. But a man who transgresseth with presumption, whether of the native born or strangers, and who turneth not away from his sin before the Lord, he causeth anger, and the man shall perish from among his people. For the primal word which the Lord commanded on Sinai he hath despised, and hath made the commandment of circumcision vain. With destruction in this world shall that man be destroyed, in the world that cometh shall he give account of his sin at the great day of judgment. Jerusalem. Because he hath despised the word of the Lord, and broken his commandments, that soul shall perish, and shall bear his sin. And while the sons of Israel were dwelling in the wilderness, the decree of the Sabbath was known to them, but the punishment for the profanation of the Sabbath was not known. And there arose a man of the house of Joseph, and said with himself, 2. I will go and pull up wood on the Sabbath day, and witnesses saw it. And told Moshe, and Moshe sought instruction from the presence of the Lord, that he might teach me judgment, and make known the discipline of all the house of Israel. And the witnesses of the man who pulled up and collected wood came, and after they had admonished him, and he had wounded the witnesses who had found him pulling up wood, Jerusalem, stealing wood, brought him to Moshe and Aaron, and all the congregation. This is one of 4 judgments which were brought before Moshe the prophet, which he adjudged according to the word of the Holy. Of these judgments some related to money, and some to life. In the judgments regarding money Moshe was prompt, but in those affecting life he was deliberate. And in each he said, I have not heard to teach the princes of the future Sanhedrin to be prompt in decisions on mammon, and deliberate in those that involved life, nor to be ashamed to inquire for counsel in what may be difficult, forasmuch as Moshe the rabbi of Israel himself had need to say, I have not heard. Therefore put they him in confinement, because they had not yet heard the explanation of the judgment they should execute upon him. Jerusalem. This is one of 4 cases which are written above, on the writ of the blasphemer, and they who were defiled by the dead. And they put him in ward till the time when it should be plainly showed to them from before the Lord, with what judgment they were to deal with him. And the Lord said to Moshe, The man shall be surely put to death, the whole congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And the congregation led him forth without the camp, and stoned him with stones that he died, as the Lord had commanded Moshe. And the Lord said unto Moshe, Speak with the sons of Israel, and bid them make for themselves fringes. 3. Not of threads, nor of yarns, nor of fibers, but after a manner of their own. Lasumon shall they make them, and shall cut off the heads of the filaments, and suspend by 5 ligatures, 4 in the midst of 3. 4 upon the 4 corners of the garment in which they enwrap themselves, and to the generations, and they shall put upon the edge of the robes an embroidery of hyacinth, Shezia-Dithikela, Jerusalem, and let them make to themselves fringes for the edges of the robes, throughout their generations, and put upon the fringes of the robes an embroidery of hyacinth. And this shall be to you precept for fringes, that you may look upon them at the time when you dress yourselves daily, and remember all my commandments to do them, and not go aside to wander after the imaginations of your heart and the sight of your eyes, after which you have gone astray, to the end that you may remember and perform all my precepts, and be holy, like the angels who minister before the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God, who have delivered and brought you free out of the land of Mizraim, to be to you Elohah. I am the Lord your God.